Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the most heroic deaths in history. Let's get right into it. 1. Saigo Takamori. Saigo Takamori sat alone in his quarters, the last embers of his rebellion, dying as quietly as the candle beside him. Outside, the sound of boots echoed through the camp, imperial troops preparing for the final assault. He knew what came next. He'd known it for weeks. Once, he had been a hero of the new Japan, a general, a reformer, a man of the people. He had helped bring down the shogunate, paving the way for the modern Meiji state. But now, that same state called him a traitor. He didn't hate the emperor. In fact, he loved him. But Saigo couldn't stand by as the government erased the samurai, stripped them of their swords, their stipends, their pride. The samurai were more than warriors. They were a way of life, and that life was ending. He returned to Satsuma, his homeland, where young men still trained with wooden swords, and old men still wore their top-knots high. He taught them Bushido, the old code. He knew the war would come. He welcomed it. It wasn't a war of conquest. It was a war of principle. The Satsuma Rebellion began with less than 2,000 men, samurai, farmers, students. They faced tens of thousands. They fought anyway. They were outgunned. The Imperial Army had rifles, cannons, Western training. Saigo's men had blades, armor, and belief. They held out for months. They won skirmishes, lost ground, starved, bled, kept fighting. Each retreat was a poem, each charge a death wish. But the cause mattered more than the outcome. Saigo didn't expect to win. He expected to be remembered. In early September 1877, the last of his forces made their stand on Shiroyama Hill. Just a few hundred men remained, wounded, starving, surrounded. The enemy held the high ground, had artillery, had reinforcements. Saigo had silence. That morning, he was shot in the hip. The pain was unbearable. His leg collapsed beneath him. A close friend, Beppu Shinsuke, rushed to his side. Saigo whispered something. No one knows exactly what. Some say he asked to be helped to die with honor. Others say he asked Beppu to remember him. Beppu drew his blade. He delivered the final strike to end his friend's suffering. Some say it was seppuku. Some say it was mercy. All agree it was the end of an era. The Imperial Army searched for his body. What they found was a nation already writing legends. Saigo became a martyr almost overnight. Even those who fought against him began to speak of his bravery, his loyalty, his calm in the face of doom. Decades later, the emperor himself pardoned Saigo posthumously. Statues of him were raised across Japan, not as a rebel, as a hero. Today, you can find him in Ueno Park, Tokyo, standing tall in bronze, a dog at his side, looking out at a country he helped shape and then chose to defy for what he believed was right. 2. Shimoheiha. The snow fell sideways, swept by a bitter wind that froze skin in minutes. It coated everything in a uniform white, erasing shadows, blurring outlines, and swallowing noise. Somewhere beneath it all, a man was waiting, still, silent, eyes open, finger near the trigger. Shimoheiha knew patience. He had learned it growing up on a farm near the Russian border. His hands were shaped by rifles and firewood, his instincts sharpened by winter and wolves. When the Soviets invaded in 1939, he didn't hesitate. He grabbed his rifle, his camouflage, and disappeared into the wilderness he knew like his own breath. He didn't have a scope, didn't want one. The glass could reflect light and betray him. Iron sights were enough. He packed snow in front of his position to muffle the sound of each shot. He chewed snow constantly to hide the clouds of his breath. He became a ghost, dressed in white, buried in a frozen grave of his own making. For hours, he'd lie motionless, eyes locked on nothing in particular, waiting for movement, waiting for a ripple in the snow. When it came, a boot, a helmet, a careless breath, he didn't flinch. He breathed, he fired, he vanished. Sometimes he would wait all day, one target, one shot, one step closer to making the invaders fear the land they thought would break so easily. He didn't fight for medals or politics. Finland was home. That was enough. He built nests in snowbanks, reinforced with sticks and covered in powdered frost. He remembered where the branches bent unnaturally, where ice cracked underfoot, where wind carried sound the wrong way. These details mattered. These details were life and death. The Soviets began to notice the pattern. Soldiers entered the forest. They didn't come out. Whole squads went missing. Then platoons. They whispered of a white spirit, a devil with a rifle. Fear took root. it became harder to find volunteers willing to patrol those woods. They tried everything: counter-snipers, mortars, blind artillery barrages. Sometimes they would level acres of forest, hoping to catch him, but he was always gone by then, or worse, still watching. There was one report: a Soviet officer shot mid-sentence while briefing his men. No one heard the shot. No one saw the shooter. The soldiers scattered, afraid of the trees. Another time, a Soviet sniper team found tracks, barely noticeable impressions in the snow. They followed for hours. At dusk, they found a corpse frozen against a tree. Not Simo, just another decoy. The real Simo had circled behind them. He kept count, but never talked about it. His superiors claimed over 500 confirmed kills. Some guessed more, but Simo never boasted. His goal was never the number. It was to hold the line. Then, one day, the luck ran out. A Soviet soldier, likely firing blind, sent an explosive round into the trees. It hit him in the jaw. The lower half of his face was blown apart. His comrades dragged him back, barely alive, blood turning the snow black. He was unconscious for days. They didn't think he would make it. He missed the final week of the war, trapped in silence, while the world outside him changed. And then he woke up. The doctors were stunned. His first question was whether Finland had surrendered. They hadn't. The Soviets had signed a peace deal. The war was over. Simo Häyhä, the White Death, had survived both the bullet and the battle. He never returned to war. His jaw was reconstructed as best as it could be. He hunted, bred dogs, lived quietly, avoided cameras. When asked about his record later in life, he simply said, "I did what I was told, as well as I could." He died in 2002. No parades, no ceremony, but soldiers and historians remember him. Not because he killed more men than anyone else in history, but because he did it without hatred, without fear, without ever asking to be remembered.